5:17 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The first sign is not a voice over the radio. It is movement. On the bridge of the U.S. destroyer, a surface contact that had been drifting slowly suddenly turns hard and accelerates. A second does the same. Then a third. 3 fast-moving tracks from the north, all tightening toward the narrow shipping lane, as if they had been waiting for the exact same second. Inside combat, the radar picture sharpens. 3 surface contacts bearing 031, speed increasing. The destroyer is already deep inside one of the most confined stretches of water on Earth, moving through the Strait of Hormuz alongside merchant traffic spaced ahead and astern. To starboard, the sea is open but exposed. To port, the coastline lies low and brown in the early morning haze. There is no extra room here, no wasted distance, no time for a wrong guess. At first, the contacts seem small, then their speed jumps again, now 28 knots. That gets everyone's attention. On the bridge, nobody panics, nobody raises a voice. The captain steps closer to the tactical repeater, studies the closing geometry for a second, then gives the order in the same calm tone he might use to correct a course line. Hail them once, record everything, maintain course. The radio operator transmits on bridge to bridge. Unidentified vessels, this is a United States warship in international transit. You are closing at unsafe speed. Alter course immediately. No reply. Below, in the Combat Information Center, the mood changes without anyone needing to say it. This is no longer routine tracking. Now it is threat management. Track numbers are assigned. Bearings are updated every few seconds. Estimated closest point of approach begins shrinking fast. CPA under 4 nautical miles. The electronic warfare team starts logging emissions. At first, it is just background clutter from the coast, commercial traffic, harbor noise. Then one shoreline radar sweeps across the destroyer again, sharper this time. More deliberate. Not a hard lock, not yet, but no longer casual either. On the starboard bridge wing, a lookout lifts his binoculars. Visual contact, 3 fast craft, low profile, armed personnel visible topside. That is the first human confirmation. The rising sun catches white spray breaking off the bows of the incoming boats. They are not fishing vessels. They are not confused civilians. Their hulls are narrow, aggressive, built for speed, with dark shapes mounted forward and amidships that look very much like heavy weapons or launcher rails. Even at distance, their posture says the same thing their speed already has. They are not here to pass. The officer of the deck orders the forward camera tighter. The feed comes alive on a repeater screen. 3 Iranian fast attack craft weave just enough to stay unpredictable, but not enough to hide where they are headed. Straight at the destroyer. The call goes back into CIC. Confirmed. Iranian fast craft, multiple armed personnel. The 5-inch gun forward rotates a few degrees off centerline. Not enough to threaten, just enough to be seen. On another deck, the close-in weapon system powers into standby. Its white dome remains motionless for now, waiting. Missile crews do not run. They do not need to. On a ship like this, readiness is built into the steel. Another radio call goes out, firmer this time. Iranian vessels, you are approaching a United States Navy ship at unsafe distance. Alter course now. Still nothing. The destroyer holds her line through the channel, wake straight and controlled behind her. That matters. Every sailor aboard knows why. In a place like Hormuz, the first ship to overreact often loses the story, even if it wins the encounter. Then one of the Iranian boats breaks formation. It surges ahead of the other 2 and angles down toward the destroyer's starboard bow. Fast. Too fast for a routine shadow. Its wake hardens into a bright white knife across the water. On the bridge, heads turn toward the windows. On the video feed, one man near the bow mount braces himself with one hand and keeps the other near the weapon. CPA now 2.6. That number hangs in the air. Another coastal emission flashes across the EW board, narrower and more focused. The electronic warfare officer leans over his console, listening through his headset as if the signal might speak. We're being painted from shore. Search mode may be tighter. He does not say coastal battery. He does not need to. Up on the bridge, the captain watches the lead boat close the distance. The second and third boats spread wider now. One holds outside, the other slides aft as if trying to build angles. Not random movement, not bravado, coordination. That is when the captain gives the next order. Set condition 3. Man key stations across the ship. Steel doors open. Boots hit ladder wells. Sailors move quickly but never rushed. Training takes over where adrenaline begins. Helm holds steady. Engines answer cleanly. The destroyer does not turn away. Outside, the lead Iranian craft keeps coming. The distance drops again. The shoreline radar sweeps harder. And in the first pale light over Hormuz, with 3 armed boats closing and the coast starting to wake up behind them, the morning stops feeling like a transit and starts feeling like a trap. 5:21 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The lead Iranian fast craft does not slow down. It drives straight across the destroyer's starboard bow at a distance so tight that every man on the bridge can see the hull number through the spray. The wake slams outward in a burst of white, rolling under the destroyer's forward shoulder. Coffee rattles in a console cup holder. A lookout grabs the rail. Nobody says what everyone is thinking. That was deliberate. CPA 1.2 nautical miles, CIC reports. Then the second Iranian boat breaks wider to starboard, dropping back just enough to create space. The third slides aft, matching the destroyer's speed from a lower angle, hanging off the quarter like it is searching for a blind spot that does not exist. In less than 30 seconds, the geometry shifts from aggressive approach to something tighter, a partial bracket. On the bridge, the captain watches the pattern settle. "They're building angles," the tactical action officer says over the circuit. No answer comes back immediately. The captain is looking through the forward glass, tracking the lead craft as it bounces over the chop, then glancing to the repeater, where the three wakes now form a loose hook around the American ship's starboard side. Below in CIC, the picture grows denser by the second. Surface tracks, shoreline emissions, merchant traffic farther south. No room for confusion. Every movement has to be separated, labeled, understood. The SPY radar holds the surface picture steady, while the electro-optical feed punches tighter onto the nearest Iranian hull. Crew topside, helmets, dark vests, a forward-mounted shield, tubes mounted aft, rocket rails, maybe, maybe not. At this range, maybe is bad enough. The bridge-to-bridge radio cracks again. "Iranian fast craft, this is United States warship. Your maneuvers are unsafe. Alter course immediately." Nothing. Then for the first time, a voice answers from the water. Male, flat, Farsi-accented English. "U.S. warship, you are approaching Iranian security zone. Change course south immediately." The wording matters less than the timing. The lead boat cuts in closer as the transmission ends, as if the radio call existed only to buy 3 more seconds of approach. On the destroyer's starboard wing, a lookout speaks without lowering his binoculars. Crewman on the lead craft is standing by the forward mount. That freezes the air for half a beat. Inside CIC, the EW officer looks up from his console. Shore radar sweep is tightening. Still not fire control, still not clean. The captain nods once. "I'll launch the helo." Out on the flight deck, the order hits like a switch thrown inside steel. The MH-60R Seahawk has already been sitting alert, blades folded, crew close. Now tie-down chains come off fast. Deck crew move in with crouched sprints. Rotor blades spread. The turbine whine climbs from a hum to a hard metallic howl that cuts through the morning. On the bridge, no one turns to look aft. They know what is happening by sound alone. The lead Iranian craft surges again, closer now, throwing spray high enough to flash in the sunlight like shattered glass. Range 1,800 yards. The destroyer's 5-inch gun trains farther right. Not locked, not aimed to fire, just visible, just unmistakable. The CIWS mount comes fully alive, shifting with a slow mechanical awareness that says the ship is done pretending this is routine. Then the Seahawk lifts. Rotor wash tears across the deck and whips out over the water. In seconds, the helicopter noses low and slides off the port side, then banks hard across the destroyer's bow, crossing left to right into the Iranian boat's line of sight. Its grey body flashes through the dawn haze low over the sea, closing fast with the confidence of something built to dominate small boats. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator brings the MX-20 onto the lead craft. The cockpit crew stays quiet. The pilot keeps it low, aggressive, controlled. Not a flyby for show, a deliberate insertion into the space Iran has been trying to dominate. Back on the bridge, the tactical picture changes again. Air asset on station. The Seahawk slides out ahead of the nearest Iranian boat and holds there, slightly offset, forcing every man on that craft to look up. A green laser designator flickers across the lead boat's bridge windows. Non-lethal. Impossible to miss. The loud hailer warning comes a second later. "Iranian vessel, alter course now. You are operating unsafely near a United States warship," repeated in English. Then repeated again in clipped operational Persian from the aircrew script. The lead boat wobbles slightly as it hits the helicopter's rotor wash. For the first time all morning, its bow drifts a few degrees off the destroyer's line. Not much. Enough. But while eyes on the bridge stay fixed on the boats, the real shift is happening inside CIC. The EW officer stiffens in his chair. New emission, same coastal sector. Lead craft is radiating now. Short-range surface search. Wait, no. Tracking behavior. He's painting the helo. Nobody speaks for a second. That is the mistake. Harassment is one thing. Unsafe maneuvering is another. But tracking a U.S. Navy helicopter at close range inside a live standoff is different. That crosses the line from theater into targeting behavior. On the bridge, the captain's voice stays calm. Arm layered defense. Request warning shot authority. Keep the helicopter on him. The Seahawk banks tighter, camera locked, laser steady, every second time-stamped and recorded. Below, missiles remain silent. Guns remain silent. The ship still holds course, but the Strait of Hormuz feels smaller now, because this is no longer just 3 Iranian boats trying to rattle a destroyer. Now one of them is starting to target back. 5:24 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The destroyer is no longer looking at 3 boats. Now it is looking at a system. Inside CIC, the surface tracks remain tight on the display, but the larger picture finally snaps into focus. 3 Iranian fast craft off the starboard side. 1 larger contact holding farther north outside the immediate push line, maintaining a measured speed that makes no tactical sense unless it is there to watch, relay, or command. And behind all of it, on the coast, the same radar sector keeps pulsing with disciplined regularity. No longer random, no longer background noise. This is not freelance harassment. This is coordinated pressure. The Seahawk stays low over the water, offset from the lead Iranian craft, nose slightly down, camera fixed. Every few seconds, the helicopter rocks in the turbulence coming off the chop and the boat's wake. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's hands stay steady. The sensor operator never looks away. The laser remains non-lethal, visible, firm. A bright green reminder on the Iranian bridge glass that every move is now under a lens. Below, the lead craft keeps its bow up, but no longer charges as hard. Its wake shortens. The second boat widens again, less certain now, while the third continues to linger aft, still trying to preserve an angle. Then the first American fighters check in. The call comes through the circuit, clean and clipped, almost too calm for the moment. Fast Eagle on station. On the destroyer's bridge, nobody cheers. Nobody even glances upward. But the effect is immediate. In the combat system, 2 friendly air tracks appear from the south, moving fast and descending into the area with enough speed to make clear they did not arrive for show. Whether they launched from a carrier deck farther out or a pre-planned patrol orbit already near the lane does not matter to the sailors on the ship. What matters is that they are here now, and now the balance changes. The tactical action officer updates the captain. 2 fighters overhead in less than 1 minute. Helo remains visual. Surface contacts still active. Coastal emitter still painting intermittently. The captain gives the order without hesitation. Bring CIWS to active track. Keep missiles cold. No one fires unless we have hostile act or confirmed launch. That line matters. The ship is stepping harder into defense, but it is still not the first side escalating. In CIC, the weapons team acknowledges. The close-in weapon system shifts from readiness to intent. Servo motors hum. Tracking logic tightens. The 5-inch gun remains trained to starboard, silent but fully committed. Now electronic warfare starts feeding countermeasure options into the tactical loop. Nothing launched, nothing jammed aggressively yet. But the destroyer is no longer merely observing the engagement. It is shaping it. Outside, the first fighter flashes overhead, not low enough to provoke, low enough to be understood. A dark shape cuts through the pale morning sky and banks wide over the strait, then turns back in a clean arc that places American air power directly above the cluster of Iranian boats. A second follows, offset just enough to cover the whole box. From the deck of the lead Iranian craft, the message is simple. You are no longer crowding one destroyer. You are standing under a layered response. The Seahawk crew sees it happen before the bridge does. The second Iranian boat drifts off first, heading away by just a few degrees, then a little more. Its crew begins looking up instead of forward. One man near the weapon mount lifts an arm, either pointing at the fighters or signaling to the bridge. The third boat slows half a knot, then another. Small changes. But in close water standoffs, tiny movements speak loudly. Only the lead craft keeps pressing. Not as hard as before, but enough. Back inside CIC, another voice cuts in. New air picture negative. No Iranian aircraft airborne. Larger surface contact remains north. Coastal radar still active. Recommend maintain pressure. The destroyer's captain studies the plot for half a second longer than before. He is not just watching the boat anymore. He is watching the chain behind it. The lead craft, the outer craft, the larger vessel, the radar ashore, the timing of the radio calls, the way the tracking behavior appeared only after the helicopter entered the box. That is the picture now, layer against layer, and then the shoreline changes the equation again. The EW officer turns in his seat, one hand still on the console. Emission spike, same coastal sector, narrower beam, could be queuing, could be preparing missile quality track. No one needs that translated. The bridge gets quieter, not louder. That is what real danger sounds like on a warship. Fewer wasted words, less motion, more attention. The fighters come around for another pass. Not diving, not threatening, just taking ownership of the air above the engagement. The Seahawk widens its orbit slightly to preserve space, but stays locked on the lead craft. The destroyer holds course through Hormuz, wake straight, bow steady. showing every camera, every radar, every watchstander on both sides the same thing. The US ship is not turning away. On the Iranian side, the first hints of uncertainty are spreading, but the situation is not easing. Not yet. Because now the coast is involved in a way it was not 3 minutes earlier. Now the boats are no longer alone. Now the radar ashore is acting like part of the fight. And in the Strait of Hormuz, once the coastline joins in, every second after that becomes more dangerous than the one before. 5:27 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The line almost breaks on the water. It happens so fast that nobody on the bridge is fully sure what they saw at first. The lead Iranian fast craft surges up on the destroyer's starboard side, bow slamming through chop. Then something flashes near the forward mount, a sharp burst, a streak low over the water. A second later, white spray erupts off the destroyer's starboard beam, close enough to throw mist across the lower bridge windows. Not a hit, not something anyone is willing to dismiss. Inside CIC, 3 voices speak at once. Splash starboard side. Possible warning rocket. No confirmed missile launch. The captain does not ask which it is. At this distance, with the coastline lit up and armed boats crowding the ship, the difference between a warning shot and a bad trigger pull is not operationally useful. It is a hostile act either way. Shift to full engagement posture, he says. Weapons tight. Hold for authority. The destroyer answers instantly. CIWS rotates hard to starboard and locks into active tracking. The 5-inch gun finishes its traverse and settles directly onto the lead boat's sector. Missile crews stand by below, one order away from turning the entire geometry of the morning into fire and wreckage. On the bridge, the officer of the deck keeps the ship steady even now, even after the splash. Especially now, because if the destroyer turns hard in the channel, merchant traffic behind her compresses, angles collapse, and the whole transit becomes chaos. Outside, the Seahawk breaks its low orbit at once. The pilot pulls the helicopter wider and higher, offsetting out of small arms range while keeping the lead Iranian craft in sight. In the cabin, the sensor operator zooms in on the forward deck of the boat, searching for smoke, tube flash, anything that will confirm exactly what just left that hull. Negative confirmed missile. Possible unguided rocket or warning round. Multiple personnel still topside. The fighters overhead respond next. Fast Eagle copies hostile splash pushing lower. One of the jets drops altitude in a smooth, controlled descent. Not to strike, but to own the airspace so completely that every eye on every Iranian deck is dragged upward. The second remains higher and offset, covering the whole box. No release. No radar lock announced over open comms. Just speed, position, and unmistakable presence. On the water, the formation finally begins to crack. The second Iranian boat, the one that had widened earlier, breaks first. Its bow drifts offline, wake flattening as the pilot bleeds speed. The third boat hesitates aft, caught between staying in the bracket and getting out before the Americans decide that the splash was enough. Only the lead craft remains dangerously committed, still close, still violent in its motion, but no longer in control of the scene it started. Then the shoreline hits the circuit again. The EW officer's voice is sharper now. Coastal emitter is stronger, short burst, possible queuing radar, still no confirmed launch. The words land heavily in CIC. The destroyer is now dealing with 2 threat layers at once. Armed fast craft in visual range and a coastal system that may be feeding targeting data from farther inland. That is how small boat harassment becomes a real engagement. Not with one clean tone, but with stacked uncertainty. Water, radar, timing, bad decisions. The captain makes his next move. Request weapons free if coastal lock continues. Warning shots on the table. Keep every sensor recording. No one mistakes what that means. This is now seconds from impact or seconds from response. On the lead Iranian boat, the effect is finally visible. Through the destroyer's optics, a crewman near the forward mount ducks low. Another man turns toward the bridge and gestures violently with both arms. The boat's nose yaws left, then snaps back. For one dangerous moment, it looks as if the pilot cannot decide whether to charge through or break away. The Seahawk circles wider, camera still fixed. The lower fighter tears across the top of the engagement area fast enough to shake spray off the wave tops. It does not fire. It does not need to. The pass is a blade drawn across the morning, and suddenly the lead Iranian craft loses its nerve. Its bow swings out hard to starboard. The wake, which had been driving straight and narrow toward the destroyer, bends into a white crescent away from the ship. The third boat follows almost immediately, turning out and aft. The second, already drifting away, commits fully and opens the distance. The bracket is gone, but the danger is not. The coastal radar still pulses from ashore. The larger Iranian contact north of the scene remains in place, watching, holding, maybe relaying, maybe waiting to see whether the Americans will now fire into withdrawing boats and hand Tehran the image it came for. They do not. The destroyer holds her line. That is the discipline of it. Guns trained, defenses hot, fighters overhead, helicopter offset, crew ready to answer with overwhelming force, and still the ship refuses to be the first one to lose control. On the bridge, nobody relaxes yet. Not after the splash. Not with the coast still awake behind the boats. The captain watches the lead craft widen the gap and says only one sentence. They push to the edge. He does not finish the thought. He does not need to. Everyone on the bridge, in CIC, in the Seahawk, and overhead in the fighters already knows what was waiting on the other side of that edge. And for one long second over the Strait of Hormuz, Iran saw it too. 5:34 local time, Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian boats are opening the distance now. Not fast at first, not in a clean, obvious retreat. The lead craft, the same one that had cut hardest and come closest, keeps its bow angled just enough to save face. The second boat has already widened into safer water. The third, which had lingered aft trying to preserve the bracket, finally gives up the angle and slides off the destroyer's quarter. On the surface, it looks controlled, professional even, but the geometry says otherwise. The trap is gone. Inside CIC, the surface picture stretches back out by degrees. Closest point of approach begins climbing instead of collapsing. 1.8, 2.4, 3.1. Small numbers on a screen. But on a morning like this, they feel like oxygen returning to the room. No one says that either. The captain remains on the bridge, eyes forward, one glance at the repeater, one glance through the glass, then back to the horizon where the strait narrows into heat and haze. The destroyer has not changed course. It has not reduced speed. It has not surrendered a yard of water. That matters. Above the ship, the fighters remain in orbit, one high, one lower, both holding the box with quiet authority. The Seahawk stays offset and wide now. No longer crowding the lead boat, but still watching, still filming, still close enough to remind every sailor on those Iranian hulls that nothing that happened this morning belongs only to memory. Everything is on record. Surface contacts increasing separation, CIC reports. The tactical action officer answers without emotion. Continue track. The electronic warfare officer is still listening to the coast. The shoreline emitter that had sharpened and pulsed throughout the standoff begins to lose intensity. Not all at once. A sweep, a pause, another weaker sweep, then longer gaps between them. We're seeing reduced power from coastal sector, still active, less aggressive. Again, nobody reads too much into it. In Hormuz, a radar quieting down does not mean peace. It only means one phase is ending. On the flight deck, deck crews stay ready. No one is standing down yet. Tie-down teams wait near their stations. Weapons crews remain close. The smell of fuel and hot metal hangs in the air beneath the steady beat of the destroyer moving through the channel. Below, missile crews remain at posture. The 5-inch gun stays trained off starboard. CIWS remains live and aware, tracking without firing like an animal still awake after danger has begun to step backward. That is how a real warship settles after the edge. Not by relaxing, by refusing to assume the threat is finished just because it is moving away. The lead Iranian craft turns another few degrees. Now the retreat is unmistakable. Through the optics feed, the crewmen who had stood near the forward mount are no longer squared toward the destroyer. One is seated, another has turned away, speaking into a handset or radio. The motion is smaller now, less swagger, less intent. The second and third boats have already drifted far enough apart that no one could mistake them for a coordinated attack pattern anymore. Whatever the plan was, it is over. But the Americans have seen enough. That may be the most important part of the morning. Iran did not damage the ship, did not force the destroyer out of the lane, did not compel an American turn, did not bait a panicked response. Instead, in less than 20 minutes, they exposed their timing, their small boat coordination, their communication rhythm, their radar behavior from shore, and the exact point at which pressure turned into actual targeting behavior. Every burst, every sweep, every dangerous move, logged, time-stamped, cross-referenced, stored. That kind of mistake lasts much longer than spray on the water. The captain finally gives the order to ease one layer of posture. Maintain track, step down incrementally, keep air overhead. It is not a dramatic command, it is not meant to be. On a ship like this, survival is not celebrated, it is expected. Discipline is the point. Inside CIC, callouts continue at a lower rhythm now, but they do not stop. The larger Iranian contact that had loitered north of the scene remains on scope, farther out, still watching. Overhead, the fighters continue their measured turns. The Seahawk begins working back toward the destroyer, not because the situation is forgotten, but because the message has been delivered and the evidence has been collected. Back on the bridge, the morning light is fully up now. Merchant ships still move through the strait. The destroyer still pushes forward. Same heading, same transit, same mission. That may be the clearest answer of all. No statement for the cameras, no speech, no dramatic flourish. Iran pressed. The United States responded immediately. Not with panic, not with noise, with layers, with control, with enough visible force to stop the encounter without surrendering command of it. The boats keep falling away behind the starboard quarter. The coastal radar fades back toward the background. The Strait of Hormuz opens just a little ahead of the bow, but no one on board mistakes calm for safety. Because places like this do not forgive bad decisions for long. One flash from a forward mount, one burst of spray beside the hull, one radar sweep from the coast that tightens just a little too much. That is all it takes. And this morning, Iran came right up to that line, looked over it, and backed away just in time. The destroyer never did.